Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And let me say it has been an absolute honour and a privilege to serve at Fortescue. I'm incredibly proud of what everyone in the Fortescue family has delivered, and I believe the company is very well positioned to continue to develop and grow into the future with a lot of great opportunities ahead. So thank you, Andrew, for those kind words. Much appreciated. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Fortescue is today a world-class company. We are a core supplier to our customers throughout China and Asia, but increasingly around other parts of the globe. We've shipped over 900 million tonnes of product today from our operations, and we're producing at around 170 million tonnes per year. We have the opportunities to continue expanding our iron ore business, and we have many years, decades ahead of us in terms of the resources we've already identified throughout the Pilbara. We are the lowest cost iron ore producer in the world today, and we've maintained that position now for over the last year. And while we have some of the greatest iron ore assets in the world, and undoubtedly the best infrastructure, it is the core culture of our people that differentiates us as an organisation. Fortescue is a cultures-based organisation, a values-based organisation. And you might say, well, what does that mean? Because lots of companies say they're culture-based and values-based. For us, it's not about the wall hangings and posters and billboards that you might see from others. It's about the way we do things around Fortescue. It's the way we interact together as people in the company, the way we embrace new ideas and innovation to solve the issues and to take on board the challenges ahead of us. First and foremost for us in values is our family and safety culture. This is about everyone in Fortescue looking out for their workmates and helping each other get through each shift safely. It is the health and well-being of our people that is our number one priority, because none of the other things that we might achieve is worth it if we hurt a single person in the process of doing that. Second is our stretch targets. We are famous, or perhaps, Andrew, infamous, for setting stretch targets that are beyond reach and out of sight over the horizon. But we start from where we want to be, what we want to achieve, and then encourage and empower our people to generate ideas and innovations, to embrace ideas anywhere they can find them to achieve those goals. And while we're not always successful, more times than not, we've been able to achieve things that people thought was impossible. And today, I read in the newspapers every day, people still telling us what we're trying to achieve is impossible. I say, just watch us. Finally, in terms of our values, is that sheer grit and determination that's allowed us to be successful. Without that determination, we would never have been able to start as an organisation, and that is alive and well today. Or as we call it, that attitude of never, ever give up on any of the challenges that we take on.
What does it take to be a global leader in the iron ore industry? It's a focus. A 100% focus. To achieve our vision to be the safest, lowest cost and most profitable iron ore producer. To empower our people. To discover the world's resources and embrace innovation. To consistently outperform. By maximising value from our world-class infrastructure and assets. While protecting our most valuable asset, our people. At Fortescue, we embrace new ideas and celebrate and respect people's differences. We're focused on building a bright tomorrow by contributing to Australia's economy and strengthening local communities. We are dedicated to empowering generational change and ending Aboriginal disparity through training, education, employment and business opportunities. We are committed to protecting our environment for future generations and respecting the heritage of Australia's first people. Together, we will continue building businesses that benefit the community. Our people will continue to search for innovative solutions and have the courage and determination to implement them. We are delivering on our vision every day. Together, we are Fortescue.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fortescue today encompasses the operations of our Chichester hub, Cloudbreak, where it all started back in 2008 with first production, Christmas Creek, and together today they're producing around 100 million tonnes of low impurity, high value in use Marramamba ores from the Chichesters. Our Solomon hub with the high grade Firetail mine, which we use to blend with the Chichesters to make our Fortescue blend product, and our King's CID product that comes from our King's mine. So today, around 170 million tonnes from our operations. Through our own 100% owned rail system, the fastest heavy haul rail system in the world, and today we run at 42 tonne axle loads at 80 k's an hour and are cycling our trains at around 20 hours for the round trip. And finally, the Herb Elliott Port at Port Hedland, which has all of the records for being the most efficient bulk commodity port. We are very proud of those operations, and I think the best is yet to come. We have a lot of tenements throughout the Pilbara. We have the largest footprint of tenements throughout the Pilbara, and today we're less than half explored on all of those tenements. And yet we already have identified around 12 billion tonnes of hematite and almost 8 billion tonnes of magnetite resource. I'm also very pleased today to say that the board yesterday endorsed our recommendation to advance the Eliwana Western Hub project as our future replacement for Firetail. So that project will now move to full feasibility and will be on production somewhere around the end of 2020. Of course, Nidinghu remains a very significant major ore body for future development, and this just means that in timing, the Eliwana Western Hub project will come before Nidinghu rather than a priority in terms of development. We have been focused on generating shareholder value through ensuring that we stay very close to our customers, understanding the market, and shaping a product mix which gives them the greatest value in their operations. We've focused on operational excellence to make sure that we are the most productive and efficient that we can be in everything we do. And we have looked to get the maximum value from the resources that we have in the Pilbara. We want to make sure that through beneficiation and blending and accurate mining that we're able to get all of the iron ore resources that are available and to ensure that our customers get the products they need. We've focused on using the strong cash flows that we've generated to repay the debt that was used to fund our company, and we've increased the returns to shareholders so that we can reward those people that have been loyal and have stayed with us as shareholders through the development of the company. Looking at our financial year 2017 results, this is a year that we're extremely proud of because across every single metric of the company, we've made significant improvements. A 33% improvement in safety, and we recognise that we're not where we need to be, and we'll continue to tirelessly work and find ways of how we can improve that performance. We've been consistent at our 170 million tonnes of product and reduced our C1 cost as a result of a focus on productivity and efficiency by 17%, and I'm pleased to say we've continued the momentum of that into financial year 18. We paid out just a little over 50% of our net profit after tax to shareholders, and we paid down 2.7 billion of our debt during the financial year to take us today to be one of the lowest geared resource companies in the world. If we look a little more detail at each of these, we can see the journey that's occurred on a couple of these important metrics. On safety, we want to be world leaders in this metric. We're world leaders in so many other areas of our business that through the same passion, the same attention to detail, the same culture that we've used to drive that performance, we will become world leaders in safety. In our C1 cost performance, our cash costs FOB, we've continuously strived to focus on how we can make the business better through innovation, and innovation not just through technology, but people thinking outside the box of how can we do it better tomorrow than what we did today? How can we learn from what we've achieved so far to keep striving to improve the business? That focus has resulted in C1 cost journey that will take us this year to around $11 to $12 a tonne. We've also embraced large-scale technology through autonomous haulage, through our very efficient Fortescue ore ships, and through gas distribution through the Pilbara to reduce our costs on large scale. This has taken us to be the lowest cost iron ore producer in the world. This latest Metalytics graph, an independent analysis group from October 2017, so the very latest information, still has us at the lowest cost iron ore producer in the world. Now we can see the whole iron ore curve has come down in costs because of the reduction in oil price and producer currencies. And the focus on efficiency and productivity across the industry has been world leading. And today we can be very proud that we have three, in fact, four of the largest lowest cost producers in the world right here in the Pilbara of Western Australia. Just let me, for a moment, dwell on the financial performance that we achieved last year. I think the most significant point around this is that every single metric across our financial measures has been a significant improvement through 2017. Now, some of these, of course, are due to the market, and I guess our strategy is not to try and predict or forecast the market and second guess it, but rather to put the company in a position to be able to succeed through all cycles of the market. We know the commodity cycles will come and go. We know we're in a cyclical business. Our strategy of being the lowest cost producer and managing our cash and financial discipline is to ensure that we can be successful no matter what the market throws at us. And I'm very pleased to say that for first quarter 2018, we remain on track to achieve our guidance with 44 million tonnes shipped and a C1 cost of $12.15 per tonne. If we adjust that $12.15 to a constant exchange rate, it comes down, in fact, to $11.65. So we're already in the guidance range of $11 to $12 a tonne on an adjusted basis. We need to continue focusing on our safety performance, and today the operations team right across the business are engaging with our people to understand how we can provide the best environment for people to work through the shift safely. Turning for a moment to the market, and I know today the newspapers are full of stories about the market and what might or might not be happening. Our focus has been to target our customers that are looking for the greatest value in use of how they can lower their costs to the minimum and provide that benefit to their customers in their markets. That's why we've focused on the low impurity 58% grade product across our business. We, of course, have the opportunity to flex that grade, and we do that from time to time as market conditions prevail. However, we remain convinced that by being able to provide the most valuable product to our customers, that will be the most valuable for them and for us in the long term. China has been our core focus, and today China produces around half of the world's steel, and it's right on our doorstep, just 11 days steaming from Port Hedland. But we are part of a much broader region where we're seeing high GDP growth numbers from all of the broader Asian region. And of course, India today is the highest growth country in the world at 7.6%. With the current market conditions, our product has become incredibly valuable across a lot more different markets than what we've seen in the past. It is only in China that the very high premiums are being paid for the high-grade iron ore. And we're looking now at opportunities of being able to expand our horizons, and we are already selling product into broader Europe and the rest of Asia. Our large iron ore carriers may in fact give us an added advantage in being able to reduce the shipping costs to Europe, which has traditionally been a higher cost freight market for us. And we see many opportunities for us to expand our horizons across the world. One of these examples is China's Belt and Road project, where through investment in its neighbouring economies and along the traditional Silk Road, China is accelerating the development of a lot of economies, and that accelerated development will bring forward demand for building products and iron ore as we go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Fortescue is not just about tonnes and financial performance. One of the key drivers for us is that we want to ensure that our communities benefit from the development and growth of our company. This is by setting standards across every single measure of our business, not just financial and physical, but also around diversity, around our impact on the environment and how we can improve at the environment around us, and by creating positive social change, particularly in our local remote communities in the Pilbara. Today, I'm very proud to say that we have around 15% of our workforce as Aboriginal people. And to best that we can assess, there is around 2/3 of those that live in the Pilbara, or at least outside the Perth region. So we are, in fact, penetrating into those local and remote communities. Perhaps more importantly, today we've written almost $2 billion worth of contracts to Aboriginal companies and their joint venture partners. This is allowing Aboriginal communities to become more economically self-sustainable. This is not about replacing government welfare with mining welfare, but giving real capacity and capability building in those communities so that they can be self-determining and self-sustaining in the future. VTEC celebrated 10 years this year, one of our hallmark features of our Aboriginal engagement policy. And I'm very proud to say that Trade Up has been now running for 2 years and has been a very successful program in upskilling our Aboriginal employees into trade roles. And just recently we announced a deal with the ANZ Bank to help provide funding to our Aboriginal businesses so that they can purchase at competitive rates the income generating assets they need to service our business. We're also setting standards across diversity. We know that it's only through a diverse workforce, diverse backgrounds and experience and training, and importantly, gender, that we're able to get the good ideas going forward and continue with the innovation that's held us in good stead. We are looking to create the results in greater gender diversity through reshaping our workplaces to make them more encouraging and supportive of female workers. We've started our own family room right here in Perth, and we're looking to expand that facility. We're using JobShare not only on a roster basis, but within the same shift to help people support so that they can have a family and work life, and we're providing flexible work arrangements. This is early days for us, but I believe that this will set us up well to continue to increase the level of female participation that we have going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, our focus is very much on the long term. We are committed to ensuring that we have long-term sustainable ore bodies that can provide benefit and employment for generations to come. We have in a very disciplined way used the capital and the cash that we've generated to restructure our balance sheet and ensure we have the strongest possible financial base for the company to sustain its current iron ore operations and to grow going forward. We are currently looking globally to identify low-cost growth options that will give the company the opportunity to spread and grow strategically, focused around value, not around growth and diversity per se, but rather about how we can grow value for shareholders going forward. And we are increasing the returns, as I said before, of the level of earnings back to our shareholders. So ladies and gentlemen, coming back where I started today, we do have some of the world's greatest iron ore bodies right here in the Pilbara, and we have the best iron ore infrastructure in our rail and port operations. But it is the unique culture of our people, our values-based organisation, that has allowed us to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. Thank you.
It really is all about achieving great results, team. This is a train registered in the Guinness Book of Records. It was registered some time ago, and the gap between us and our competitors has only increased. So it would qualify again today. And I think if we put the port up for efficiency of throughput for the capital which you have invested, I think you'd win that Guinness Book of Records as well. It is about a very clear strategy, ladies and gentlemen. It's achieving strong results for you as our shareholders. And this, of course, is only possible with a team that really demonstrates not only outstanding capability, but outstanding ability to bind with each other. At Fortescue, you're all encouraged to have a very brave plan A and a bulletproof plan B in case that, as often happens, the plan A doesn't work. Shareholders don't suffer because your plan B is sitting right there. We have a number of other policies, like you can complain as much as you like about the company or a colleague, but you need to have a real crack at a solution. It doesn't have to be a good solution, but it has to be a good crack. The second time, if you complain without a crack at a solution, we now know you're whinging. And you know, life expectancy at Fortescue begins to diminish rapidly. So, you know, it's that kind of harder edge, I suppose, which ensures that we do stay together. We, if you like, develop the best parts of humanity into leadership across the entire 8,500 people who help us run Fortescue today. And this growth and development means a great deal to us. Nev has done the most outstanding job as the developer and the operator of our assets. We're now moving into a growth phase where we're exploring opportunities all over the world. We have very strong reputational capital here, ladies and gentlemen. We've been able to develop this company from scratch to deliver outstanding returns, a very, very high dividend policy. And this is only made possible by the strength of board governance. And the board recognises that those shabby mob of people down next to a riverbed up in the bush is in fact your board of directors and senior management. And we meet in places like this just to remove ourselves from all the hustle and bustle and short-term issues of the day or the month of the year, and really plan and project out the company's long-term future and take advantage of that reputational capital, where I feel that we can use our reputation instead of your money to create the equity to take advantage of exciting developments and exciting acquisitions, which otherwise companies in our space would only do or be able to do with your money, with drawing down on the company's balance sheet. It's that reputational capital which will also serve as, if you like, a gatekeeper of rationality to the investment decisions which we take on your behalf. If we can't raise capital from external parties to back an idea, then we're not going to put your capital behind it either. And that injects sanity into the exercise. You've probably seen with colleagues in all industries, but particularly ours, where big balance sheets have large cash surpluses. They can be put to very large bets, which often don't work. And this ability to draw on reputations capital as opposed to your monetary capital, I think, is unique to Fortescue. It is also the reason why we're not rushing out making announcements, but being highly disciplined in our approach. And that all comes down to the brain power of those people in and around that photograph. Now, as an example of this, want you to look at the FMG Sophia. She's a huge ship, 260,000 tonnes dry metric tonne weight, one of the largest to ever enter into Australian waters. She represents the reinvigoration, the recommencement of Australia's Australian-owned shipping industry. The first time we've had Australian ships of magnitude sail into our waters, Australian-owned for over 2 decades. Now, that ship is achieving the lowest cost per tonne per kilometre in the ocean right now. And that means when we have these, if you like, dislocations in the marketplace, and I'll just give you an example, it is one very relevant to you. When the Chinese government sends out an order a few years ago, the Chinese expression you'd hear back is, it translates into English, there's many green hills between here and Beijing, which is a euphemism for Beijing can say what it likes, we'll still do what we like back here. That doesn't happen in China anymore. Under President Xi, if orders go out, those orders are adhered to. In fact, in some cases, they're voluntarily maximised. People go above their expectation of their order if you're in control of a state-owned enterprise, where a government says, we would like to reduce the amount of steel being made, even though it will have a direct inflationary impact, even though it will shoot the price of steel up by asking mills to only produce for a percentage that they're capable of. That means that those steel mills try and produce as many tonnes as they possibly can in their allocated time. Now, out of the window goes attention to operating cost, maximising margin per tonne, and in comes maximising production. You want to produce as many tonnes as you can out of your finite infrastructure, and the only way you can do that is by jacking up the high-grade material, the very high-grade iron ore, which you feed into your facilities. That way you can maximise tonnes. You don't maximise profit per tonne, but you maximise tonnes. And because there's been an arbitrary inflection into the market, someone's just said we will start closing down parts of the steel industry's operational capacity, the steel price has risen, so you don't care anymore about operating costs. You don't care about value and use for iron ores. You just produce whatever you can in the short time you've been given. That's led to a lowering of the value of the dollar value of our value and use iron ores. It's led to a non-market driven increase in the very high-grade iron ores, which Australia generally doesn't produce. Other people do, and Australia produces some of it. And where it leads to high grading of ore bodies, then that's a tragedy for Australia, because what I can share with you, if you have, say, a 1 billion tonne ore body, it's best for the people of our country that you mine all of it. But in times where there's serious premiums being paid for high-grade iron ore and not medium grade, then you'll strip out the high grade. It might only be 150 million tonnes of that billion-tonne ore body. You'll strip out the high grade. But the problem with that is what's left, the 850 million tonnes, is probably permanently non-commercial. In other words, through high-grading that ore body, to achieve next year's results, to maximise perhaps your bonus at the end of the day, you've ruined Australia's resources. Now, Fortescue has resisted that temptation vigorously. We still keep over 20 years iron ore inventory at any one point in time. We continue to explore as we go, and we're increasing our inventory as we go, and we do it through the plants and the innovations which under Nev Power have become some of the most efficient upgraders of ore in the world. And I'm very grateful to that. When you combine the fact that high grade has now got a much higher price and our medium grade has a much lower price, you think, oh, we're in a bit of trouble. But we're not, ladies and gentlemen. Out of every setback is the seed to equal or greater opportunity, and the FMG Sophia provides that opportunity. We have a very large fleet, 8 ships, all capable of over 250,000 tonnes a year, tonnes per load. We can shift on the water at any point in time 2 million tonnes. And these ships just go around the clock 24/7, 365 days of the week. And that very competitive ability to ship tonnes beyond China to other parts of Asia, to Europe and the like, means these ships really swing into action. And the rest of the steel industry, which is, as Nev's pointed out, is some half of the steel industry, they're feeling the impacts of a very non-marketplace driven high price for high grade. And they're still not receiving the artificially high steel prices, so they come tapping on Fortescue's door and says, hey, we need you to ship to us your very high value in use. We need your product even more than we did previously, because high grade has gone through an unjustifiably high increase. And so we are out there now speaking to customers all over Europe, all over non-China Asia, and accelerating our shipments of our product to the non-China steel world. And I look forward to bringing you much more results about this next year. Why are we so earnest about this? Is because we want to maximise returns. And one of the reasons we want to maximise returns is because the Minderoo Foundation, as your beneficiary of 1/3 of the dividends, has a multi-generational capacity to bring good to our society, to do what we say we're going to do. And our logo is for the love of our country and commitment to serve others. And you see Gracie in this picture, who's picking up the reins after mum and dad start handing them over. She'll be joined, we earnestly hope, with strong encouragement by her sister Sophia and her brother Sydney. But it is a multi-generational commitment to Australia, and this foundation will eventually become the major recipient of Fortescue shares. And that Minderoo Foundation is out there doing, I think, some real good. We are about strengthening individuals, strengthening communities with a hand up, not a handout. Now this is, can be a little controversial. We believe very strongly in helping people get through their challenges and then stand on their own 2 feet, as perhaps exacerbating those challenges with feel-good policies as opposed to do-good policies. And we have our challenges out there, ladies and gentlemen. Walk Free is the largest non-government organisation dedicated to defeat modern slavery. It's partnered with the International Labour Organization, which is one of the oldest and largest UN bodies, the ILO, and it's now publishing its results measuring slavery all over the world with the ILO. As you know, cancer is accelerating in our communities. What isn't accelerating in our communities is the ability for the great cancer research institutions to deliver cures. And why is that? It's because in the academic world, where all cancer researchers spring from, there's heavy competition against each other as individuals. When you go to publish a paper, you try and keep your data to yourself, you try and keep your information to yourself, and then you publish, and with any luck, that paper will be recognised because it's unique. That ethos, that culture springs forward as people stop being researchers or academics and become practitioners and eventually leaders of large research institutions. That culture is still in your chest. And you don't collaborate with your fellow institutions, and you don't share data material, and you don't share information which could be breaking, which could solve the lives of tens of thousands of people. The ECI has $75 million war chest aimed at that collaboration, aimed at removing the critical hurdles which stop collaboration. The great experts of the world, of which I am not one, tell me, even though this is impossible, if you could crack it, Minderoo Foundation, it would bring cancer to an end as a fatal disease and just another manageable disease for which there are cures within a generation. Personally, I think that's worth fighting for. One of the other great influences of society is a child. From conception to birth, of course, the brain of a child grows infinitely, and we can help that through having healthy mums and stable homes. But let's not forget what we can influence dramatically, which is that brain development and that personality development, so that a child, when they hit the ripe old age of 5, has a PhD in life. They're full of vigour, full of energy, full of optimism, and that information and how to deliver that child into that PhD is all with us. But that information is not out there to community. Thrive by 5, under the leadership of Nicola, is doing a fantastic job of gathering all that information from the deepest learning areas in the world, Harvard, Oxford, right here in Perth, and translating that into information which can go to every intending or existing mum and dad. Generation 1, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, is the specific emblem of a hand up, not a handout. It wades into areas which blatantly causes controversy. A cashless debit card was invented by it, which is able to restrict drugs and alcohol into entire communities. With that, people, instead of wondering what they're going to drink today, start wondering what they're going to do today. And when training options and guaranteed employment options by Generation 1 in partnership with the government, over 25 different institutions now spread all over Australia, all founded by Generation 1, then they get up and get work. And that's a fantastic result, and this is transforming communities. I'll give you one little statistic. In one of our towns, they recently reported 12% violent assaults against women every month. Translate that out to 8 months, that's 100% of the community violently assaulted every 8 months, just on the math. That's now dropped to 4% and is lowering all the time, over a 200% improvement, where all the police and all the counsellors in the world were having no effect for decades. Now, the ill-informed take this as an Indigenous card. It's not an Indigenous card. It's not being rolled out through Queensland, through Hervey Bay, through Bundaberg and other places where there aren't Indigenous people. Because it's an Indigenous card, it's being rolled out where there's vulnerable people who are being exploited by drugs and alcohol merchants who prevent people from getting up. Now, it's controversial, ladies and gentlemen. People say it's paternalistic. I say that's complete rubbish. We wouldn't deliver welfare across this country to people who fall prey to people who take their cash if we had a better way of paying it. We didn't have a better way of paying it, so we paid cash. We now have a better way of paying it, which is a way where you get the same monetary value, but it doesn't fall prey to the drug dealers. As you can tell, really want to advance this to help all vulnerable people, because we're seeing the results in communities where the leaders have had the courage to ask for it. The Forest Research Foundation is our largest single investment, $130 million into upper education to lead into this state some of the most intelligent people in the world, and to prevent our sons and daughters who match that category from taking other opportunities offshore. And it's working. But it's only made possible, ladies and gentlemen, through 15 years of stable leadership and this champion next to me, Mr. Nev Power, who I would like to ask all of you to stand and give a rousing ovation to, Mr. Nev Power.